And now we have Shri Suneet Mehta, Deputy Chief of Mission, High Commission of India in Canberra, Australia. And we do need to hear from our diplomatic representatives who are abroad to hear what's going on, India's perception abroad from some of our partner countries. So over to you, Shri Mehta, for your speech.
Good morning and namaste. It's a pleasure to participate today at your event, and I'm participating from the High Commission of India in Canberra, Australia. At the outset, let me thank MEA's Branch Secretariat, Kolkata, for organizing this very timely conclave in partnership with the eminent the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and for giving me this opportunity to participate and benefit from the deliberations. In the context of Australia also, we are holding this event at its important juncture. We've just concluded a very successful G20 summit under India's presidency, where Prime Minister of Australia, Honorable Anthony Albanese, visited India, the second time in this year. As you all know, both Prime Ministers have already exchanged very successful bilateral visits earlier this year, with significant outreach to businesses during each of the visits. There has been a steady flow of ministerial and other high-level exchanges. In fact, since May last year, we have had about 30 ministerial visits both ways. So India and Australia are really coming closer. The India-Australia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, announced in June 2020, has clearly acquired an unprecedented momentum, and the business environment is getting even more conducive with each passing day. It's an acknowledgement not just of our bilateral complementarities and synergies, but also of our growing convergence of views on geostrategic and geoeconomic issues, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. It's anchored in our desire to increase engagement in the Indo-Pacific, to realize our shared vision of an open, free, prosperous, and rules-based region that respects sovereignty. It has a mutual commitment to work together to confront our common challenges and seize new opportunities as natural partners, strong democracies, and dynamic economies. The security, stability, peace, and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region is vital for the world at large. It's a region with an expansive geography, with 65% of world's oceans and 25% of the land. It's home to 64% of the world's population, including 58% of the youth. It accounts for 62% of the global GDP and 2/3 of the global growth. Over 50% of the world trade traverses this maritime domain. Whether it is trade, investment, connectivity, or travel, or geopolitics and security, what begins in the Indo-Pacific Oceans no longer ends there, be they the shipping lanes, supply chains, markets, or resources and competition. It is essential that the Indo-Pacific region endures and flourishes to ensure future security and prosperity for not just us in the region, but also friends and partners beyond. Thanks to this convergence of views, India and Australia find each other to be natural and trustworthy partners. And since there is a great appreciation of each other's capabilities and our complementary strengths, India and Australia are working together on creating more diverse and resilient supply chains. We are doing this bilaterally, as well as with other partners such as Japan and USA in the Quad. The rapid maturing of the Quad, with us like-minded partners getting together with a sense of real purpose to guard global commons and offer alternative and better options to our friends in the Indo-Pacific, is a telling manifestation of the shifting sands of geopolitics and geoeconomics and its new realities. Now, coming to the drivers of economic diplomacy, since the post-COVID reopening of Australian economy and indeed its borders, our economic diplomacy has been anchored in 3T's framework provided by our Honorable Prime Minister, which lays emphasis on trade, technology, and tourism. I would therefore like to provide a snapshot of our approach in these broad categories today. Coming to trade, this is a good time for India-Australia trade and economic relations. Our bilateral trade is booming. It has jumped from Australian dollars 34 billion in 2021 to Australian dollars 48 billion in 2022, registering a healthy growth of 41%. India's total exports to Australia have grown by 38%. Similarly, Australia's exports to India have grown by 42%. India is Australia's sixth largest trading partner and a major destination for export of its minerals and metal resources and source of quality professional business and IT services. In 2022, India's service exports to Australia grew 123% to Australian dollar 3 billion from just 1.6 billion in 2021. This is 32% higher than pre-COVID levels of Australian dollar 2.76 billion in 2019. In order to further boost the bilateral trade and especially export of Indian goods and services to Australia, we've been following a three-pronged strategy, focusing on tariff reductions, expanding market access, and diversifying our trade basket. We have negotiated and swiftly brought into force the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, which was signed last year and was brought into force in December of 2022, which is last year. ECTA has resulted in zero duty on 96% of India's exports and value to Australia immediately entry into force. We're now engaged in negotiations to conclude a comprehensive economic cooperation and trade agreement, which is SECA. 6 rounds of negotiations have already been completed, and we aim to conclude the agreement by the end of this year. We're securing greater market access for Indian products and services through special provisions agreed as part of the free trade agreement, which include annex of pharmaceuticals to grant expedited approvals for Indian pharma, side letters for market access for wine, whiskey, and alcoholic beverages, working holiday visas, post-study work visas, and greater access to Indian professionals, chefs, yoga teachers, as well as through technical cooperation mechanism to improve market access in agriculture products. We are working to improve the migration and mobility and have recently concluded the India-Australia Migration and Mobility Partnership Agreement. And a key feature of this is the mobility arrangement for talented early professionals, MATES, a very appropriate acronym which has been coined for that. This involves opening up of 3,000 slots annually for young professionals from India to spend 2 years in Australia and to work without need for a visa sponsorship. Diversifying our trade basket from traditional sectors such as fossil fuels to include new energy metals and critical minerals, which are key to energy transition. We are also facilitating greater collaboration in green hydrogen and solar energy. Initiatives in these sectors with Australia include establishing the Critical Minerals Co-Involvement Partnership, the Renewable Energy Partnership, India-Australia Solar Task Force, and Green Hydrogen Task Force. I believe when India becomes the third largest economy in the world, the energy transition and the critical minerals will play a pivotal role in that journey. Coming to technology, all the major IT companies are present in Australia. The mission's focus is to support these companies in making forays into new sectors of Australian economy, such as defense and government procurement. We've already resolved the long-pending issue of double taxation, which adversely affected the Indian IT companies for several years. As part of the free trade agreement, the ECTA, Australia has passed an amendment in domestic legislation to stop taxing the Indian IT companies for offshore services to Australian clients, which will significantly benefit our companies. Apart from traditionally strong sectors such as IT, service exports, we are now focused on expanding and deepening cooperation and eventually trade in critical and emerging technologies. We've established the India-Australia Cyber and Critical Technology Partnership. The framework agreement on cyber and cyber-enabled critical technology was also signed as part of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of June 2020. Coming to tourism, India has become the largest tourism source for Australia, thanks to our million-strong diaspora in Australia. The potential to increase inward tourism is also huge. In order to boost tourism from Australia, we're focusing on medical tourism, pilgrimage tourism, and MICE. There's considerable scope for medical tourism from Australia. Australians travel to neighboring countries such as Thailand, Malaysia, and Philippines for medical tourism, primarily for non-essential surgeries. With our strengths in traditional medicine, Ayush, India can be more economical and can offer quality services in this regard. As I mentioned earlier, there's a large diaspora in Australia, which is reaching over 1 million now. Therefore, there is also a considerable scope for boosting tourism among persons of Indian origin to visit India, not only for family and friends visit, but also for religious pilgrimage. There's considerable scope in MICE tourism with Australia. The mission is seized of these opportunities created by India's G20 presidency and all the related events that have taken place across India, which has created tremendous awareness as a tourist destination and unlocked India's untapped potential in the sector. As I alluded earlier, beyond just trade, There's already a strong shared sense that India and Australia can help each other grow and transform. In Australia, there is a new realization that its future prosperity and security can no longer rely on any single country alone. Similarly, Australian companies cannot remain just producers and exporters of primary commodities. They must also diversify into processing, value addition, and manufacturing. Through this platform, I would like to urge all Indian businesses to come forward and seize this opportunity. And our mission here in Canberra and our consulates in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and soon to be open Brisbane will be happy to provide all the necessary assistance in forging this long-term profitable partnerships with your Australian counterparts. Thank you once again for your attention and for giving me this wonderful opportunity to participate and benefit from the deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta, for a very well thought out speech. In fact, we understand that there is tremendous scope of partnership before SICA is actually finally signed. We have scope for maritime trade, technology, tourism, service export is one field, and then we can diversify to different other kinds of things like coal, renewable energy, and finally, you talked about prosperity and security of the Pacific depends on a stronger partnership between Australia and India. And your mission is all there to help the business here to prosper. That's a very welcome speech from you. Thank you, Mr. Mehta, once again.